everyone, how are you all? I hope you all are fine. So welcome back to Aisha vlog. So today is a reading day. So we are going to read 2 Degree from Ellen GRATZ, the part 3 of Miami, Florida. Chapter number 2. I have already read the chapter number 1 of it, the sinking ship. Now we are gonna read the chapter number 2, the pink flamingo. Derek took a look outside and came back excited. We hit the balcony of an apartment building, he cried. Marcus, which is the son of he's the first or the second son. Okay, come quickly and help me grab the rail. The two of them secured up and out, then called for the others to help. Jarry and his mother went next. Then Natila. Outside, the storm was as bad as ever. Bites of trees and debris swept up, cutting and lashing at her. Natila tried to stay low, holding Choro inside her hoodie with one hand and the tentled rope of the boat with the other. The apartment building they had hit was 1,000 others Natila had seen in Miami, rectangular and boxy and 3 stories tall. Windows and doors that normally opened out onto an exterior walkway were boarded up, but the walkway itself was protected by the building's flat roof and guarded by a metal railing. Even if they couldn't get into one of the apartments, the walkway could be some place out of the rain. At the end of the walkway, concrete steps disappeared into the choppy grey storm surge, leading down to the second and first floor apartments that were already underwater. We are talking about on the third floor balcony. Third floor balcony of an apartment building. Natila thought it was also impossible. Derek and Marcus were already on the concrete walkway. Derek held the sailboat's railing while Marcus helped people off. Anna, the mother, went first, slipping and almost falling on the narrow boat. Derek before Marcus and Jabri caught her. Natila waved Isabel, the foreigner girl which they found in the boat. Isabel and her children up out of the cabin, go to next, and Isabel handled her son and daughter across to Marcus before climbing over the railing and taking shelter with Anna near one of the board apartment. Shrunk back. Natila ducked as a satellite dish came crashing into the boat and flew away, followed by a dented metal trash can lid. Reuben was going to let them. Reuben, basically the storm which was there, they named them as a Reuben. Reuben was going to let them off his sailboat, but he wasn't going to make it easy. Jabri pointed at Natila her turn. She crowded low, holding Choro tight inside the hoodie, and inched her way towards Jabri's outstretched hand. Out of the corner of her eye, Natila saw something big hurtling through the darkness of the storm, and she turned in time to see what it was. A giant pink fiberglass flamingo statue was stumbling straight towards her on the wind. Natila only had a heartbeat to duck before one Trump trench. The flamingo statue smashed into the boat. The impact ripped the boat's railing, but of Derek's hand, Natila fell on the Derek as her world went spinning, bumping, trashing out of the control. In the chaos, Natila saw Jabri fall in the water. She reached out for him, screamed his name into the word-stealing wind, but he was gone, or she was. The boat reeled away from the apartment building, away from the stretching, yelling Marcus and Derek, and in a second they all the other had disappeared in the dark pounding rain. No, Natila cried, come back. They had finally found someone to help her, found a safe place to hide from Reuben, and now she and Choro were all alone and lost in the storm. Well, it was nice. We I'm gonna end this video after when it will hit 10 minutes. So we are gonna read one more story. Fellow travelers. Yeah, it's small. Natila clung Natila clung on the boat railing, chuckling white with fear. Inside her hoodie, Choro trembled. Sideways, rain pelted them. The roaring wind ripped at them. The sailboat tried to throw Natila and Choro in like a wild horse. It was too much. Raven was attacking her in so many different ways. Natila didn't even know where to start. All she wanted to do was crawl back inside the boat and hide until it was over. But she couldn't do that. The boat she was clinging to so desperately was sinking. Natila scanned the horizon looking for some place safe. Vague black shape loomed in the distance, still hosted by flashes of lightning. Were they more apartment building? She couldn't tell. Something moved against the white cap on the top of the water, and Natila, her heart caught in that thought. An alligator was swimming by just a few feet. An alligator. Just a few feet away. Natila wouldn't have seen the alligator if she hadn't been searching the darkness for some way to escape, but she was it now, and it saw her. One of the alligator's glassy, beady eyes met hers as it glinted by in the water, and Natila held her breath. Choro was the alligator too, and growled, and Attila quickly clapped a hand over the little dog's mouth, like this. Luckily, the gator didn't seem particularly interesting in them or in the slightly thing. Natila was swimming by in the water next, going in the same direction. Something that frightened Natila even more, the alligator, a Burmese python. Another denizen of Miami's canals, we knew. The huge snake was easily 12 feet long, with a spotted green and brown body as thick as Natila's leg. In her imaginary world of Mariposa, Natila had turned the ugly, monstrous pathogens. What are pathogens? We will discuss one day. Okay? Into dragons and sent brave monstrous pathogens into dragons and sent brave knight out to slay them. In reality, the only thing in brave knight out to nay. In reality, the only thing in nature that were a match for these snakes were their mortal enemies, the alligators. But the alligator and this Burmese python didn't seem to want to eat each other, or Natila or Choro. They all had a big problem to contend with Hurricane Raven. Even so, Natila kept a watchful eye on both the gator and the snake as they swarmed past. Lightning flashed, and through the rain, Natila saw a square, shadowy island up ahead with a couple of small rectangular structure on it. No, not an island, she realized. It was a roof top of a two-story building that was otherwise completely underwater. It wasn't a good refuge as the three-story building had been, but it would have to do. Trump scrap. The wind pushed the boat against the building, hurt in her throat, Raven roaring in her ears. Natila climbed to her knee and grabbed the short wall along the top of the rope. The boat turned and twisted in the water, and Natila held on tight to the building as the sailboat dragged away. Underneath her, her legs fell into the churning storm surge, but she found enough strength to pull herself up and over the ledge. She and Choro tumbled into a flood of water about 3 inches deep on the roof, but there was solid ground beneath them for the first time in forever. Natila was so exhausted she laughed and cried at the same time. This happens when you are like you don't know what to do. You are in a great situation and you don't know what to do, this happens. We made it, Choro, we made it, she said. She was sure he couldn't hear her over the roar of the hurricane, but it didn't matter. She could tell from the way he collapsed into her chest that he was as relieved as she was. They still had to find some way out of the wind and driving rain. She had seen little buildings on the roof, hadn't she? A stairwell, maybe, or a storage shed. Natila worked her way wearily up onto her hands and knees, just in time for a wave to reach the edge of the roof and crash into her. Natila tumbled along the rough rooftop, trying to grab hold of something, anything, and then suddenly the solid ground underneath her was gone and she was underwater again. Now, you would be thinking, what's next? I'm not gonna tell you next because the next we will. Tomorrow we will again read two stories. Going for a swim and the only chapter we are left is going for a swim, and then we will start with the Sierra Nevada, California. Why shouldn't we finish this one also? Let's do it. Going for a swim. No, not back into the water. Natila kicked and tried, trying to grab the edge of the roof before she was swept away. She swallowed salt water, but there was another sharp taste there too. Cablorine. Natila choked and gasped. She was lost. She was drowning, and then at last her hands found what was she was looking for, the edge of the roof, but it didn't feel like the rough, low wall she had climbed over to get here. It was smoother, rounded. It felt like the edge of a swimming pool. Natila came up, gasping for air, and realized she was ribbon hadn't knocked her back onto the storm surge. She was in a rooftop pool. Choro kicked and crawled inside Natila's hoodie, and she quickly unzipped it and pulled him out where he could breathe. The little dog hacked and coughed, but he seemed okay. Natila just hoped he hadn't swallowed too much water. Though the sweeping rain, Natila saw a ladder sticking up out of the pool, and she kicked her away toward it. She was most of the way up and ladder and out of the pool when she felt Choro wiggling in her hand. He was barking at something behind her. Natila turned to see what it was and almost had a heart attack. There was a manatee in the pool. Natila cried out and fell back onto the rooftop. Manatees weren't dangerous, but seeing this one here now in the pool on the roof of a building was totally surreal. Natila stared at the creature. The manatee was huge. Natila was just under 5 feet tall, and the sea cow was twice as long as that and wide enough to swallow her whole. If it hadn't been a plant eater, its grey skin was covered with blotches of green and brown algae and scars from years of encounters with motorboats crisscrossed its back. The manatee raised its fat snout out of the water to breathe and sniff at her, and Attila felt a sudden kinship with it. She and Manatee were alike. She realized Raven had destroyed both of their homes and then dragged them here on this rooftop to be stranded in the storm. And none of what had happened was their fault. But they still had to deal with it. Choro barked at Natila, freaking the spell and Manatee had on her. Choro was right. They had to go find shelter out of the storm. Goodbye, Manatee, and good luck, Natila whispered. Natila crawled away from the pool, trying to stay as low to the ground as she could while hanging Choro on her chest. She went for the nearest thing with 4 walls and a roof, a little storage shed by the pool. Natila reached up and opened the door, then cried out and ducked as Reuben ripped the door off its hinges and sent it flying away in the storm. Natila crawled inside anyway, squeezing in between beach ball and styrofoam. Styrofoam coolers and pool noodles that floated in the floodwater. She hid in the back corner of the shed and wrapped herself around Choro, shaking and shivering and wondering how long she was going to have to survive here until the storm ended. And then, just when Natila thought things couldn't get any worse, when she thought Raven had done everything to her he possibly could, Natila felt water drip onto her face and looked up. The rooftop was shifting of the little shack. No, not the roof, she thought, not again. Natila's tears turned to anger. A fire burned inside her and her arm shook. She had enough. No, she screamed. No. Irma took my roof and you took my wall. But you can't have this. She yelled at Ribbon. As the Ribbon is a human, she can talk. So she talked. She knew it was hopeless, that screaming at a hurricane was like Choro barking at every single thing that frightened him, but she couldn't help it. She was tired of feeling so overwhelmed of not barking back. Stop it, right now, Natila screamed at the lifting rope. Go away, Ribbon, she cried. You leave us alone. And suddenly, to Natila's surprise, he did. Ribbon did. But what's next? It's Sierra Nevada, California, part 4. I want to see what's next, but I can't skip because I like the Sierra Nevada one. I know why. I personally like this one. I personally like. I actually like reading the parts of Sierra Nevada, then reading the parts of Miami, Florida, or that ice one. I forgot its name again. It's like, wait. It's the no, it's not here. Okay. The Churchill, Manitoba. I like Sierra Nevada among these two, Churchill, Manitoba, and Miami, Florida. So this was for today. I hope you like my reading, and I will just improve my reading skill, listening skill, and yeah. So if you find this video interesting and learning some new words, so please like, share and subscribe. Bye bye. Meet you